They opened up a little small track in Danville called the Dixie Speedway, and they wanted to get some black drivers, and they thought they didn't know who to approach, so they went to the police department to find out what black guys had speeding records and things like that. So they told them they want somebody to drive a race car to see me. So that's how I started racing.
As Matt told us earlier, trying to become the first African-American driver since Willy T. Ribbs and join Randy Bethea and the great Wendell Scott.
He did he drove the car exactly what the car wanted him to do. He got out early. It looked like a little tight, but he kept in the throttle and he got a good lap. And wow, way to go!
There you go.
Woo-hoo. That's it.
That man, Tony Schumacher, wins. He is the champion for an 8th time. But Antron Brown, if Tony Schumacher loses, becomes the first African-American to win an NHRA title. 376, Antron Brown is the top fuel champion.
These need to be the best 7 laps of Darrell Wallace Jr.'s life.
That was a good first part of it right there.
Turn number 4, Darrell Wallace Jr. is going to get his first win in the Camping World Truck Series. His final time through 3 and 4. He's going to do it. Bubba Wallace wins at Kansas.
Ready. What they gonna say now, baby? Let's go!
Record is equals. Lewis Hamilton wins the Turkish Grand Prix and is a 7-time champion of the world.
Get in there, Lewis. What a way to do it, mate. What a way to win your 7th world title.
I'm gonna say this, and we need to get started. I guess I'm gonna be in this, but Vontae's attitude right now, and in every episode that I've been part
attitude
of,
is too. So shut up.
It encapsulates the beginning of the old Negro spirits will wipe me down. I show up to the club VIP, gas tank on E, but all the drinks are on me. That's how this shows up every week.
Praise God.
And there's our intro.
Lord.
That's our intro right there. Oh, God. All right, let's go.
Let's get it. All right, y'all. Welcome back. Episode 12. Can I do math? Episode 12. Time to catch the vibes. I'm hosting this week. It's Jarratt. Art's here. Danny's here. Vontae's here. Carl's back, but in a minimized role. We have a really long show, y'all. Y'all ready?
Let's get it.
Absolutely.
All right, let's kick it off. SRX season finale last week. Jonathan Davenport wins the season's finale at Lucas Oil. I thought it was a good race. I thought Clint might have put something on his mind if he would have caught him.
I mean, I guess I'll lead with this because I was there. First of all, I want to say going to an SRX race changed my mind entirely about SRX. I did not care about it prior to going to one. And I will say wholeheartedly to anybody that can hear this, if you have the opportunity, go. The fan experience is great. The cost factor is minimal. The cars put on a really good show. I think had it not been for JD, there's like 4 or 5 different drivers that probably could have won that race. It was really interesting to watch. And probably one of the few times in my career I actively rooted for Clint Boyer because locals were going nuts the last couple of restarts. And there was one where I think it was Marco went down into one, washed everybody up, and the whole track got quiet. Like everybody gasped because they thought that he had just wrecked Davenport, but it didn't happen. But yeah, it was fantastic. I'm so excited. I'm so glad I went. Shout out DGooden24 on YouTube. That's who invited me. It was awesome. Go check him out. But yeah, I love it, and I really hope I get to go to one next year.
Yeah, I feel like they do a good job most weeks of putting on a show that's worth watching. I've said on here a few times, but like it really scratches that middle of the week racing itch that I have, and I just want to see something competitive. The only thing that's, I guess, a negative for me is that I'm not a huge dirt guy. Like, I've never been a big fan of dirt racing, but I can appreciate it. I think it's a skill that can be developed and honed in. And so I definitely think they'll be back next year better than they were this year. You have to give a big shout out to Ryan Newman winning the title. That's a throwback name that always is close to NASCAR fans. So to see him do his thing was really impressive.
Man.
So, yeah, no, it was a great showing, and I'm looking forward to seeing them again next year.
I didn't watch SRX all season, but Carter was a good race. Carl went. Happy for Ryan Newman to win that championship, though. What a legend. What a legend.
Yeah, SRX is fun. SRX is always fun. It's not certainly not the most scientific thing out there, for want of a better phrase, but it's just silly and enjoyable. Everybody goes out and has a great time. Yeah, Clint was driving like a man possessed, particularly in the latter stages of the race. And generally, like I said, it was fun. Congrats to Ryan Newman. Hearing Ryan Newman winning anything, frankly, is kind of nice to hear. The last about 5-6 years of his NASCAR Cup career didn't really bear much fruit.
He was a good crash to me, though.
Yeah, I got it. So I gotta admit, like, when I saw him, like, cause like before the race, they do a Q&A deal, and they bring out 3 drivers at a time. And I saw Ryan Newman, and I was like, there's a guy who I thought was dead for about 16 minutes. I thought I just watched him die. And so, yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy to see him win. But apparently, I didn't get to see this. Apparently, Tony Stewart, I guess, got bored and decided to interview Ryan Newman while they were racing under green. Did any of y'all catch that?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Like, that's probably one of the big innovations that they've done that I really like. I don't think it'll ever be done anywhere else, but it's very interesting. Clint, I think, was trying to run down the leader, and he was just like, yep, working hard. And, like, you can hear in his voice, like, this man is fighting a wheel.
That's the same thing Joey Logano was doing for Kyle Busch. That was too funny.
Yeah,
okay.
talking to him
I didn't know that was a
mid-race.
regular thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Because that's the race that Kyle Busch had won when that happened.
Right,
It was too funny.
And then also, so I found out that apparently there's a bit of a rivalry between Davenport and Clint, because when he had a dirt team, Davenport drove for him, and I guess their relationship did not dissolve so well. So that's kind of why the gloves were kind of a little off a few times through the night watching those two race each other. But yeah, I thought that was a cool ordeal anyway. So yeah.
And they've already.
I'm sorry. I do want to share one other thing, and I'll shut up. So races in Missouri, we counted 4 black people there, including myself. But the weirdest thing that happened to me was that I was getting a hot dog, and this older gentleman, gray-haired, stopped me and was like, "I love your shirt." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, thanks, man." And he was like, "Stand still." And I was like, "What?" He took a picture of my shirt. It's a Wendell Scott shirt that Harris Lou did. I think came out last year, right? And then he was like, "Yeah, I know the Wendell family," and then walked away. And I see that guy for the rest of the night. And I was like, it was a really weird experience. But yeah, it was pretty. I don't know, man.
I'll say this, Carl. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Carl had the cowboy boots on with the jeans on. Dude was looking lavishly, trying to look clean. No, I'm playing, man. No, that is fire, sure, though.
Hang on, let's go back for a second. You said this man told you that he knew Wendell Scott's family?
Yeah, well, he said he knew Wendell Scott, and then I turned to Glen and I said, well, I don't necessarily know if that's exactly possible. I mean, it could be, but the guy looked considerably younger. I mean, Wendell Scott today would have been God, nearly close to 100 years old, I'd imagine. 'Cause I think he was born in like 1920 or something like that. So, like, yeah, I mean, so I don't know that he might have known Wendell's kids, maybe, but I don't think he knew Wendell Scott. But yeah, it was a weird occurrence. But yeah, that was it. So.
Well then, ESPN really likes this relationship with SRX. They've already got 6 dates next year. So shout out Tony Stewart. Keep doing what you're doing. I would say the other person he affiliates with, but I don't feel like going there tonight. Moving forward, start on the NASCAR side of things. Xfinity, Sam Meyer sends it and the one, ruining Ty Gibbs' chance at winning it at Watkins Glen. All right, you're the Sam Meyer lover. Do you agree with what he did?
First of all, lover's a bit strong, but whatever. I'm gonna say that Sam Meyer fans,
You're an admirer.
We eating real good right now. Like, that's the thing. Like, you have to know, and I'm sure he did, but like, if the roles are reversed, that's exactly what's going to happen to you. Like, he's going to drive you off into the corner and take the lead. Like, so you have to be aggressive there. Like, we've seen what turn one at Watkins Glen is like. It's chaos on the late restart. So I was pulling for him. I saw some people on Twitter saying, "Oh, he doesn't have that dog in him," on that last caution. And man came through clutch. He tried to backplay and say, he wheel hopped it, and he might have, but hey, a dub's a dub, right? So you have to take it. And against Ty too, like, it was the Ty Gibbs show, like, the entire race. Like, it was a bit of a snooze fest for 98%, I feel like, because everyone is 5 seconds behind it. So for it to get snatched away at the last possible second, that's a pretty good outcome for me, at least.
You could also see that Ty Gibbs also threw shade at Sam Meyer too at the end. He said, some looking forward to getting my 13th, like that. I'm like, wow, just like that.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the fact that you can tell they obviously don't like each other.
We know that, especially how last year was.
Yeah, like, I want people to outwardly hate each other and try not to wreck each other, but to race them way harder than they would anybody else. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when one of those drivers is in Cup full time, so it's like racing him hard has no impact on week to week deals. Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Did you watch the Xfinity race?
No.
All right.
But
oh boy.
But I will say this though. Me personally, I don't think that Sam tried to wreck Ty Gibbs, but
here we go.
It is what it is, I guess. But Sam got that dub. Win's win. So yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, it was. I mean, up until the final restart, yeah, it wasn't a particularly interesting race, frankly. The argument of, wheel hop versus not, I honestly, to this, I think is utterly immaterial. Sam saw an opportunity, he seized it. Carpe whatever. And he got the win. And the pit lane reporting back and forth was amusing. This is you smell that? It smells like beef.
I was hoping to see Ty Gibbs try to punch a man with his helmet on again. That went over really well the first time. Post race, Sam says that fans should be happy in Xfinity regular wins. Ty Gibbs counters and says, "Check my trophy case." Do you think that we legitimately have a rivalry now in the Xfinity series?
I can lead off with this a little bit. I don't think so. I mean, I think that I don't know if Ty has any more starts this year. I guess the Roval maybe. But No, I don't think so, man. I mean, because Sam doesn't have any upper mobility right now. As far as getting into the Cup Series, I don't see that happening. And Ty certainly is, by the time they race together again, probably going to forget this whole deal. But, how crazy is it that Sam Meyer is leading the win column for Junior Motorsports? You couldn't have paid me to believe that in February. But as far as that reg deal goes, I mean, whether he will hop or not, if I'm Sam Mayer and I'm behind a guy that nobody really likes as far as fans go, and he's not a regular, whatever. I mean, if I take him out,
But
I
he
take him
gets
out.
us. He gets us,
Yeah.
Carl. He
Well,
gets
dude.
us.
Oh God, whatever. Who cares? I mean, about but I saw some people crying today about the he gets us thing, and I'm just like, I can't be bothered with it. But anyway, yeah, I mean, and like I said, Ty's given his fair share of shots, and I saw somebody say it best, like he has a couple coming to him. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't come to him this year, and and it's just part of having to learn. I mean, quite frankly, I love the Xfinity Series because it's always nepo babies beefing. I think that's great. We need more of that in America. But yeah, I mean that's cool for Sam, But Ty should just, he's gonna have to learn to lose like Kyle Busch did, and then that's it.
It's interesting, like that meme where it's like the calm dog next to like the wild wolf animal. That's Ty Gibbs. Like in the Cup Series, he's very nice and like he's not wrecking anyone. And I have to run 15th this week, I'll take it. He goes back down to the Xfinity Series. He's a different animal.
Run these streets.
Right, like he's a different animal, and I think it helps the fact that he's got by far the best car in the field in Xfinity Series. But I kind of disagree with Carl. I think yes, they will not cross paths for the rest of the year, but we know that like drivers have really long memories and they will hold a grudge for a while. And I'm not expecting Sam to make the leap anytime soon, but I do think eventually he'll make it to the Cup Series. A door will open for him, and I'm hoping they just go right back to it. Like keep the energy alive. Start, subtweeting each other in the meantime. Like give me that spark in the meantime till he gets up there. So hopefully that's what'll happen.
Yeah, man. It's We'll come back to the Xfinity Series here in a second. Moving on to Sunday, Bloody Sunday. William Byron shows up, didn't get a Mickey Mouse win, put himself in victory lane. Was that his 5th win this year?
Yeah, 5th win this season.
It was, in fact, his 5th dub.
Well,
dominated.
Dang. Well, dang. What y'all think? Does this give him the right momentum? Is he back? Is he telling Carl Larson, don't remember who I am?
I mean, is he back if he was ever left? I mean, I don't ever think of like Willy B as being like that guy so far in his career. Up until this season, I mean, he's been fantastic this year. I would never pencil him in for 5 wins, especially at this point in the season. Like it's still got over 10 races to go. He can be a threat at a lot of these tracks that are still left in the schedule. He definitely had some luck. With other folks having misfortune that we're going to touch on here in a minute. But like when the doors open, the money's on the table. You got to walk through and take it. And like they executed, they did their job. And, he ran well at Watkins Glen in the past, both in Xfinity and Cup. So like this wasn't a huge surprise. I had him as one of my picks to potentially win going into the weekend. So good for him. I mean, great momentum, but it was a tough race, I think, for a lot of folks. It's really hard to pass. So if you're able to get up front and get in that clean air, I think you had a huge advantage, and they were able to stay up front most of the day.
So this was the fastest race in Watkins Glen history, like the last race that finished like an hour or something was like 1972. So this one like one of the fastest races this season. Overall the races wasn't really that good. William Byron got the dub, but overall we happy for obvious reason. Young, we'll get to that in a second. But like it was races alright. Even though we had one caution, Chase Elliott. Lordy Lord, Chase Elliott ran out of gas because Alan Gustafson thought that he had 3 laps left with the gas. Nope. It's hilarious.
Monte, you bring up a good point that leads us right into our next topic. Let's talk about that. Yeah. How are you? It's 2023. These cars are more digitized than ever. How do you get it off that much? Was like now, from my understanding, using the diagram of the car, you have the pickup and the other pickup. Did he think that they were somewhere else with more banking where the fuel could actually get to the pickup? Like, how are you that like dead off, like car dead off?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, and if I can pick up real quick, I think there's 2 answers to that, right? Number one is, again, we haven't run Watkins Glen without stages in, I don't know, 6 years now. And number 2 is Hendrick ingenuity, right? So I think what people are kind of forgetting, everybody all week long is like, oh, how did they not know? How did they not know? I'm sure that they knew, right? But I'm sure that they thought that car specifically could make it the distance. I'm not saying it was cheated, but I'm saying that there may be a different component. Obviously Hendrick manages. They build those powertrains. They know that stuff in and out. The mapping could have been different. The way the flow was. I mean, whatever. It doesn't matter. There could have been something internally that everybody involved thought like they could make it, right? There's a lot of a lot of Allen hate. They can't say Van Gisbergen. I can't say Gustafson, but a lot of Allen hate. I'm like, there's a lot of variables at play. It wasn't intentional. If Chase didn't come out and like just blast them for it, then there's nothing else that's there to be said. But I will say this: Denny Hamlin is probably if when he retires from racing, he should be a wrestling promoter because he knows exactly what he shouldn't say and says it. For this man, I don't know if y'all listen to Actions Detrimental, but he pretty much blamed Chase Elliott and said, this is Chase's fault. Personally, if Tyler Reddick did the same mistake or Denny Hamlin did the same mistake, or Martin Truex did the same mistake, I don't think Denny would have said that, to be honest with you. So, I don't know. I thought that was kind of an interesting side note to all that. But, yeah, it was kind of embarrassing to see.
Yeah, I mean, we put so much, and by we, I mean, the collective NASCAR universe, we put so much stock into Chase at Watkins Glen, right? Like, he runs well there. He's won there a bunch. Like, if he was going to win a race, this would be the one that you would pick, especially if you have to clinch a win to get into the playoffs. And yeah, I mean, the idea that you could make it around 3 laps at Watkins Glen with a gallon of gas left, I just don't know why anyone thought that would work. So yeah, I'd be very interested to see what that Monday morning meeting was like, and what was said about that. But to Carl's point about what Denny said, yeah, if you're the driver and they say, yeah, we're gonna have you run 3 more, bump that. Like, I'm pulling in next time by because I know there's no way this thing's gonna make it. Even if you're telling me that, like, at a certain point, you have to call an audible and override, because if you're the driver and you say, I'm coming down next time by, they'll give you some gas. Trust and believe they won't let you sit there on pit road. So it was really surprising. Like, that's a team that, like, you don't see that kind of fumble typically, like, no team is perfect, but that was a catastrophic failure that they just could never recover from. And, now they have to go all in again at Daytona, and Chase has run well at Daytona, but he doesn't have the best track record. He's not known necessarily for being the most prominent super speedway racer in the field. So it's one of those things where you just wonder, like, how did you guys get that this wrong? Especially like this is the week you have to be the most buttoned up, right? Like you have to execute A++ this week. If you do that, you probably win. And they just choked it away. So if you're a Chase fan, you're probably really frustrated, but that's racing.
Yeah, and it's it's funny kind of talking about this because there's lots of debates about this this race generally outside of that caution being a bit of a snoozer, and it's funny. I always kind of enjoy these races because I talk about kind of the purity of it, and being kind of acknowledged as the one person here who, broadly speaking, appreciates F1. I do enjoy things like this, but you talk about calling an audible. If there's you in Formula One, you do see driver strategy overrides periodically, where it's like, no, this is where the driver at least feels like that is absolutely incorrect. And I am a little surprised that Chase didn't do that. Because, like you said, these drivers, they know just through running these cars, they know fuel mileage just as well as crew chiefs do. And yeah, there is a gallon of fuel. There isn't a snowball's chance that you're making it three laps around Watkins Glen. It's funny. Somebody on Twitter did the math. I think it was Botsi, Tatarevic, did the fuel mileage calculations. So roughly MPG, and it was something like 4 and change.
Yeah, like 4.4 or something like that.
Yeah, and it's like that is beyond to my cutesy little road car brain. That's absolutely horrendous. But more to my point, on a gallon of fuel, even at modern performance road car at full chat, you're not getting 3 laps. Let alone one of these things. So yeah, no, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for the Monday of the competition meeting, because that could have been either deeply uncomfortable or very, very funny, or some combination thereof. But I suspect, suffice it to say, this is probably a mistake that will never, ever, ever happen again, no matter what.
Yeah, and like just to go back for a second, like you could tell after qualifying, he missed the second round of qualifying, and there's that clip that everybody's seen probably by now where he's in the car and he's like, I missed every corner I could have, or something like that. I mean, he looked really frustrated, looked really dejected, and it's like, you're starting 11th, right? You're not starting 31st, but still, like, that pressure to execute again, knowing like you missed 8, 9 races, whatever it was, and then to come out here, and then the team collectively, driver, crew chief, car chief, somebody, like all of these links in the chain that failed at some level. You just have to feel like that team is probably doing a lot of soul searching this week, and hopefully they can recover in time for Daytona if they want to make the playoffs. But it just seems like they were just pushing too hard this weekend and probably just overthought it.
Well, we'll save it for the Daytona shot, but I just want to say real quick. I don't know. Are we going to talk about the racing in general, Jarratt?
I mean, yeah, I was going to bring that up. Like, it's genuinely. I thought Watkins Glen was amazing. Now, I will say this: no cautions at Indy was boring. The track's too big, couldn't hold my attention. We talked about that last week. With Watkins Glen, it's like a minute 10 a lap. Like, the race actually went by really, really fast, obviously, like Vontae said, but I didn't mind the racing. It was actually fun at not having stages at Watkins Glen. Like, it was actually kind of awesome.
Agreed. The only road course, probably the road course race that I really enjoyed, and 5 races, but like outside of that, yeah, the race has been smooth, even though it really wasn't good. But in my opinion, I thought it was cool.
So it was cool, but you didn't think it was good. What's that mean?
Okay, next question.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'd say like Watkins Glen. Yeah, for me, it's my favorite road course on the schedule too. I appreciate the technical turns of it. I love the bus stop. I love that it's probably the fastest road course, I think we can safely say, on the schedule. We've talked to him before. I will continue to bang the drum for no stage cautions anywhere, never mind a road course. Like, get rid of them everywhere. But I think this race falls into the bucket of a lot of races where the 2023 Cup car isn't very good outside of intermediates. It was a race where no one could, make up ground through the field. The tire fall off was consistent across the board. You couldn't save tires. If you gained, I think Bubba gained 2 spots on a restart, and he was the biggest mover of that run just because he was able to jump them on the restart because he's that dude on restarts. But the car is just too forgiving. I think we've talked before about the brakes, the shifting, all of these different factors that this car just does not do well right now on road courses. I don't know the full details of what went into making this car, obviously, but they clearly have to go back to the drawing board because it just should have been a lot more exciting than it was. I'd say it was an average race for 2023. For Watkins Glen as a whole, though, it would be a bit of a disappointment by comparison.
It certainly was disappointing to be a Watkins Glen race, I think. But all in all, sometimes in racing, you just have green races that are just good. It's just good racing, or the quality, I guess, is good, even if it's not side by side and stuff like that. And I think part of it that, the guys were able to really follow each other and stuff like that, and not able to really gain on guys, kind of made overtakes worth watching. Overtakes more important and significant. I listened to Radioactive, and Richard Childress was over the moon that Austin Dillon passed Tyler Reddick for 12.
That's because it was Tyler Reddick, though.
Well, yeah, that too. But look, I'm all aboard. No stage cautions. I think that whole deal has run its course. And everybody's over it. But it's just, like I said, it is just the ultimate level of irony that, we go to a schedule for the Gen 6 car that only raced good at 750 tracks, like road courses and like short tracks. And we introduce this car, and it is the opposite. It's a total flop. And meanwhile, we've stopped going to all these intermediates. We've destroyed Texas for the most part. They've ruined Atlanta. And so now it's now what do we do? So I don't know. I think that in a way, them going green like this, and Indy too, I think is going to have them go back to the drawing board and trying to figure out how do we make this car better, because it's very glaringly obvious. But that aside, I thought it was cool. I almost kind of prefer the way that the race ran than, sitting and watching the race till 6, 7 p.m. Because of multiple restarts from yellows caused by restarts. So caution, precaution. So I don't know. I thought it was all right. Congrats to William, and glad Bubba ran good.
I was just about to talk to you about that, on that topic.
Yes. So we'll go ahead and move on to our 23-11 corner segment. Tyler and Bubba both finished where they qualified, giving Bubba one of his best road course finishes.
Performance
what y'all think about it?
I ever seen in my life. Literally, proud of that dude. I watched the whole race, obviously, but seeing Bubba in the top 10, majority totally all race besides the caution. His lowest was 14th, came back up and finished 12th. Held his ground, held his race, got really good stage points. I'm so happy that man ran really well on a road course. His worst finishes at that road course. Literally. Proud of that man, proud of the team. Got a 30-point plus buffer onto Daytona. So nervous for Saturday, even though I got a little faith because Bubba at Daytona summer has been pretty good. The last two was second and 11th, but If he held his ground for Daytona, we should be in the playoffs. But for Watkins Glen, I am proud. What a performance!
Ty Gibbs needs to still fall out of a tree and break his foot. Go ahead, Art.
Maybe he needs to go snowboarding this week, right? How's the
Hey,
snow?
find some snow. Go to
In
Australia, New
August?
Zealand,
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this race was about all you could hope for if you're a 23 fan or Bubba Wallace fan. You know, qualified well, surprisingly well, ran really well. The only thing that really messed him over was the chase caution. There was a clip earlier in the week that came out that said that was the very lap that they were going to pit. And so, you know, if that happens one lap later, he probably finishes in the top 10 because he was running 7th and 8th for a good portion in the middle of the race. And then just got cycled back, I think, to 14th, and then was able to come back and finish P12. But all in all, I mean, this is the kind of day that you have to have. And I think if you look back over this summer stretch, Bubba's been really, really consistent. He's been the most consistent of any of those cut line guys. The only person who's had a better summer stretch is probably McDowell, only because he got a win at Indy. If you take that performance out, I think the 23 has been better overall. So it's exactly what you could hope for. You know, got a nice buffer. You know, they can point their way in potentially. I'm still very worried about the new winner scenario coming next week.
Same, bro. Same.
Like Daytona has shown that it can be very unforgiving to people on the playoff bubble. So we'll see what happens. But as far as this week, you know, pit crew did their thing. Booty made good calls. Bubba drove the wheels off it. So, you know, I'm going to give them all an A for this week, which is, it's rare for me to give the whole 23 crew an A. But I think they definitely earned it this week. That was by far away probably the most satisfying 12th place he's ever had in his career.
But even though it wasn't a top 10, P12 and ran great on a road course is a W for me. And stage points made a W for me.
Yeah, these are. I talked about it a little bit on Twitter after the race. You know, this is honestly, I rate this as certainly one of his, probably one of his best career drives. I mean, it's a P12. It's not the most glamorous thing in the world, on the surface of it, but you know, road courses have traditionally been a struggle for him. With particularly, funny enough, like Coda and Watkins Glen being particularly bad days typically. So for him to drive as well as he did all race, I mean, he drove well. He was on the pace. Actually, at one point, I think it was like part early stages of stage 2. He was one of the fastest cars on track. Which is, if you had said that to me this time a year ago, I would have called you stupid. But that aside, yeah, I mean, it was a phenomenal drive. Yeah, if it weren't for Chase's caution, this would have been a top 10. You know, I don't think either 2311 cars really had the pace to have fought for the win. But all things considered, this was absolutely fantastic. You know, and I certainly know you guys have talked about it before. You know, there's been lots of chatter in the group chat. You know, these couple of road courses are going to be a big question mark of if, you know, all of the ground, you know, gained was going to vanish in 2 races. And that hasn't been the case at all, which is a surprise, but a pleasant one to be sure.
Glad you brought that up. I told y'all on Twitter that I was going to go scorched earth about this road course thing. I don't want to hear another word. Don't you say anything else about Bubba Wallace's road course performance. It's done. It's nixed. He did what he had to do last at IRP last week. It was unfortunate. We got a new winner. Doesn't matter. He did what he came to do. Handled his business. That would have been a sufficient points day had Michael McDowell not won. And then Sunday, he finished 12th. One of his best finishes, as Bonce alluded to. You know, he was very emotional in his post-race interview about how proud he was of himself and how he had to reach out to get help, to get advice on how to be better and how to get better without, ridiculing you or getting too far in your head where you can't perform. I don't want to hear shit else about road course and Bubba. Speaking of that, Bubba's always been a huge proponent, huge component, being open about his mental health, always seeking out help, advising people to get help, advising people to be better. Personally, I think, that's a win, obviously not because he's just an athlete speaking about, his mental health, but that's also important, as a Black man to come out and tell other Black men that it's okay, to not be okay, in essence, and to give, an olive branch or help, or just let people know that it's okay to talk to somebody. It's okay to want to talk to someone. There's nothing wrong with you if you want to talk to someone and get these thoughts and feelings outside of your head. So I was super duper proud of him. It got me choked up a little bit just because it takes a lot to admit your faults as a person, let alone on national television. So to that point, Carl Bonte.
Carl, real quick, I'll let you speak. First of all, let's get a shout out to Scott Dixon for that. Now I'm gonna tell you why. Like Scott Dixon told Bubba to shut the hell up. You did it for a reason, and you're right, Bubba. You are here for a reason. NASCAR driver, you were literally a damn good driver. It's my language, and he belongs in the sport. And I'm grateful to have Bubba Wallace in the sport of NASCAR.
Yeah, I mean, and you said it, I think, best, Vontae, is he belongs here. And there are a lot of people that I think question, why is it worth talking about Bubba Wallace finishing 12th, right? And obviously he has certainly a large contingent of fans that just like with Chase Elliott, that NASCAR feels like we have to highlight his stories. But I think, moreover, I think it's incredibly impressive that just the growth he's been able to put forward being in the environment that he's in, right? I think, you go from being at the 43 and, having to kind of worry about where that program is going to be on a year-to-year basis. I mean, they go to Charlotte in 2018 at the Roval and in early in the practice, and he drives it through the carousel and destroys the car to the extent that I think they wound up only taking one car to Talladega the following week because of that accident. And, and I can only imagine, self-doubt is a huge thing, right? I mean, it's just like, and it runs true in all of our lives, and it was a big moment for me to see him say, look, I just had to take a step back and understand, like, when you say things are not going to be, they aren't going to be, and I mean, we all experience that in our personal life. I, dealt with that conversation around weight loss and followed the path that he's on and has been successful. So, yeah, it was a huge day to see him be able to put himself in the right place mentally, but also just from a skill standpoint, be able to do what he needed to do and learn what he needed to learn to perform. And I think without that caution, he would have had a great day. I think it would have been, much more noteworthy. But that's what I love the most is the progression he's had and showing up every week and being like, I belong here. I think between this and North Wilkesboro, there are in Charlotte, those three are drives in and of themselves, just as you're alone, that if somebody's like, what has Bubba Wallace done? I'm like, these are great examples of why he belongs in the conversation, why he belongs in power rankings, why he belongs on NASCAR's posts on Facebook, that people are like, why are you putting Bubba in the picture? Now, shut up, shut the hell up. Because like I said, it's fantastic and just really over the moon with that. And win, lose, or draw next weekend, knowing that he's been able to put forth the effort and learn and better himself to put himself in the best position possible, despite outside factors that he can't control, makes me so incredibly proud of him as an individual. And I'm so glad he's a part of this sport and has given me somebody to root for.
Bring us home, Mark. Bring us home.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo a lot of what's been said here, just the fact that the amount of growth that that Bubba's shown over the last 2 years, both as a driver and seemingly as a person, I think is huge. Mental health is something that I've dealt with as well in my life. And like, it's hard. Sometimes you're your own worst enemy. Sometimes you're your own worst critic. And, you know, there's been weeks where Bubba had a bad week or crashed and said something to the fact that I should be replaced next week and things like that. And, you know, it's hard when you're in that position where it's such a high pressure job, but it's also hard when you're just a normal person, right? You've got 9-to-5 life and you've got whatever you're dealing with. So to have someone go through the valleys that he's been going through as an athlete and as a human, and to see him seemingly overcome a lot of those, both mentally and professionally, I just think it's really encouraging to see. You know, even if the results aren't showing, like, I'd love for him to have 5 wins right now instead of the 24. But even if he isn't having those kind of results, that type of improvement, I think it just means the world. And so, like, you know, you just want to encourage people to just keep trying, like, right, just keep digging at it, and having that belief in yourself. I think it's just so huge. Just really believing that you can do something. And that's, you know, Devontae's point about Scott Dixon, just telling him, like, you belong here, like, whoever you are, wherever you are, like, you belong in that space. And, you know, trust and believe in yourself to get through to the other side. And seemingly he's turned a corner, you know, as a driver, and again, like, from a mental state. And I just think it's just so encouraging to see, and to echo, like, a lot of the things we've said here, like, you're just so proud of it. You know, you're so proud of the work they put in. So I'm hoping that as we turn the corner and you know, get to Daytona, that it pays off, right? Like, you do all this hard work and you drive and you work on yourself to get the result that you feel you deserve, right? Now, obviously, like, there's 20 other drivers that feel like they deserve to be in the playoffs, of course. But if you're the 23, like, you'd love to see that pay off at the end, right? Just to have that opportunity to go and compete for a championship. So hopefully they get it. But I mean, even if they DNF lap 1, like, this season has still been a huge success in terms of just his growth as a driver. And I think, you know, the future is really bright for Bubba Wallace. I think it's much brighter than I would have expected it to be 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we close this out and move on, I do find it interesting talking to Scott Dixon, because, you know, mental coaches is something that IndyCar utilizes quite heavily, actually, for stuff like this. I was listening to the race and their IndyCar podcast, and they had David Malukas on today's episode, and he talked about that, and especially being at Dale Coyne Racing, another sort of, you know, kind of medium-size-ish, you know, team that tends to kind of punch above their weight. And when they have these kind of up and down weekends, talking to somebody to basically just kind of remind them, you know, you are that guy. And so it was cool to have, you know, Scott do that, you know, for Bubba. And and yes, you know, mental health is important, kids. You know, certainly, you know, more than, you know, my fair share of bad days, you know, and a lot of the you know, mental turmoil that comes with, you know, realizing, acknowledging, and then existing as, you know, a public, you know, as a trans person. You know, that's a that's a difficult existence sometimes. And it takes all of the gravitas in the world to sit here and be very honest about that on national television. So certainly big props to Bubba for doing that.
Absolutely. While we're talking about 2011 and Bubba, there's a lot of rumors swirling. There might be a change of the guard at 2311. It's rumored. Well, I'll say this first. Denny said on Actions Detrimental this week that his driver's deal is done. It's on his desk. His pen is sitting beside it. He's currently waiting for the 2311 deal to get done with Toyota and waiting for the JGR Alliance deal to be buttoned up as well. But with that, seems like Ford's doing some really heavy recruiting to try and get 2311 to switch. I stopped there. That's part one. Y'all, you buying or you selling of the potential change to Ford?
I don't want, to be honest, I really do not want 2011 racers to go to Ford. They are perfectly fine with Toyota. I know that Bubba likes working with Toyota more than the other manufacturers, right? I think.
I mean, he was their development driver, so I feel like they do have some stock in Bubba. Yeah. But I ain't asked you that.
Yeah. So I feel like they should stay. I don't want to go to Ford, in my opinion. I'm just saying.
I'll pick it up. Man, I mean, not to be long-winded, but you're right. So the 2311 deal, as it stands right now, officially is this. So there's been some rumor, some talk of, well, 2311 doesn't get help from TRD. That's not what's being said. What's being said is like, look, we don't necessarily want to be in line directly with JGR, meaning that what JGR does can be detrimental to our operation, i.e., Furniture Row Racing, right? And so what they're saying is, look, we want to be able to stand alongside Gibbs in Legacy as a Toyota team, not a Toyota team affiliated with Joe Gibbs. I totally get that. Then he has to play for longevity here. He's once a retired owner. As far as the Ford thing goes, if the money's there, if the charters are there, if the performance is there, they're getting a new Cup car next year, I'm confident in it. If that's a move that they feel is best, I'm behind it. I think that there are a lot of things going on at Ford right now that we can question, but I don't think that we know in the end. And I'm if Denny and Michael decide this is the route we need to go, and I'm sure we can talk more about it in the second part of this convo, I'm not mad about it. I'll go out and buy blue oval shirts. I don't care, because what I don't want to have happen is 2 years down the road, all of a sudden they have a falling out, between Gibbs and Denny and 23 and TRD, and now it's like, okay, now we're forced to go somewhere else, and we cannot get the same deal that we were offered beforehand, and now it's a big step back, So I mean, I trust them. Do whatever you got to do, man. I mean, the history's there.
Yeah, I think with the first part of this question, I feel like it's tough, right? Like you can say that like Toyota has been so critical to Bubba's development and like 2311's development, but yeah, if you're a second tier team on a manufacturer that doesn't have that many teams, that's not a good look. And we've seen, having JGR hand-me-downs affect 2311 performances with pit crew guys for both cars for multiple years. They might have 3, 4, 5 more trophies if they had an average performing pit crew over the last 2, 3 years. So it's interesting. Like I've never been a big Ford fan, but I'm like, hey, whatever gets you the best stability, the best resources, like we've said here, like playing for the long term. I think we're going to talk about the charters here in a minute. That's to me, I think, is the biggest factor. But as far as whatever manufacturer they go with, I guess I could support Ford. I was a Chevy guy growing up forever, and I converted to Toyota for Bubba. So Of course, yeah. I mean, Jeff Gordon drove a Chevy, so that's all I needed to know right there. Like that was it for me. But yeah, I mean, if they go to Ford, like I'm fine with it as long as like the team is getting that support and like they're saying like, look, this is an A+ deal. Like this is by far the best deal we could possibly get. Then hey, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's curious. Curiouser and curiouser, as Hemingway once said. On paper, I certainly don't hate the idea. We've watched McDowell in front row, and we've watched them, ostensibly make big strides here these last few weeks. So there's certainly something to be said moving for Ford. It in theory would put you, and actually RFK for that matter, watching, those teams, even though you would think, the Penske boys, would kind of run things for the Ford camp, and we've watched them become increasingly more competitive. So there is something to be said for some amount of upward mobility moving to Ford, especially, yes, with the arrival of the S650 chassis, or based, I guess, more accurately, Cup car next year. It would be a significant amount of egg on face for Toyota, given that the whole point, especially in adding legacy, is the idea of getting a couple more cars for the Toyota camp. So to pick up 2 and lose 2, well, it would be very funny. But it is it's diametrically opposed to sort of what their end goal is. So I do think they have some vested interest in, well, frankly, they have a vested interest, I think, in placating Denny and Michael, even if they don't necessarily like it, because I think making them happy will, in the long term, make Toyota happy. Yes, much like, the rest of you, certainly the optics of, moving to Ford. Yes, same thing, certainly I grew up in GM's backyard. I was a stone's throw away from their global headquarters at the Renaissance Center growing up in Detroit. So yes, in NASCAR, I was always, Chevy and Pontiac, until Pontiac left. So yes, the idea is
still hurts.
Yeah. Sorry. But so yes, the optics of potentially adopting Ford is that gives me some cause for concern, but that is just purely a personal, purely a mental thing. If it would work out for 23 and 11 in the long term to be with Ford, then I mean, go for it.
Art, you want to pick up?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to talk about it here, but like the biggest thing for me, which is much more fascinating, is the idea of them getting additional charters. Ooh. And the idea of potentially scaling up to being a 4-car team. Ooh. To me, like that's where the real plays come in, right? That's the big money now. And so like the idea, and we talked about this and I've mentioned this before, but the idea of like a Bubba, Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, Zane Smith, pairing. I just find that so fascinating. Like, I would love to see that. Like, I'd love to see the 11 and the 23 in 23-11 be on the same team. I would love to see that. I know, like, it costs $100 million and probably another $100 million to develop it. But I just think, like, that puts you right at the forefront. Because if you look at, like, Toyota, right now, Joe Gibbs Racing, the only 4-car team out there. If you look at Ford, there's no like dominant team like there is like at Hendricks or with JGR. So like if you go to Ford and you get 2 charters, like you're instantly the number 1 team, I would have to think, in terms of pecking order, just because you've got all of that talent. You've got all that horsepower there. No pun intended. But that I just think would be so exciting for me to see. And those are the questions, like the conversations I really want to know, because we heard all this last year, right? With Kyle Busch, right? Oh, he's gonna be here for life. Oh, we've got the deal ready. We just got to figure out ABC. And what happened?
Oh yeah.
What happened? He left.
He went to RCR.
So like until like there's an announcement, like pen is put to paper, I don't believe anything. Like Jarratt even said earlier, like Denny knows what to say in the public eye. And he knows to say, like, it's not good for him to go out there and badmouth his current team, especially when they're about to make a push for the playoffs and for a title. So, like, yeah, publicly, I'm sure I'm saying, yeah, everything's great, nothing to worry about. But we don't know for sure, like, that's what's actually going on behind closed doors. So 4-car Ford team versus a 2-car Toyota team, those seem like a really compelling argument to make the switch. Like that to me makes me then much more excited to make the switch.
So to loop y'all in on what Art alluded to, there's also rumors in the garage that SHR is going to go from a 4-car team down to a 2-car team. And if they do, those charters would be up for the bidding. Personally, I think that's a smart move for Tony and Gene. Get that money, make your 2 cars ultra competitive. As you can see, we've seen what a 2-car Ford team can do. But that's where the charters would come from. I think Denny wants to race for his team. I think Denny's building a beautiful, beautiful race shop that can house 4 Cup teams for a reason. I think it's time to go championship hunting. And if you can have 4 cars that can help you in your time of need, it's game time. Carl, what you think?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of moving pieces to this. The first thing I want to say is, if I'm David Wilson, I'm looking at Joe Gibbs like Big Worm looked at Smokey. You playing with my money, I said playing with my emotions because because you look at it and it's just like how many what ifs have we lost due to Gibbs benevolence. I mean, Furniture Row, obviously, Levine Family Racing. What could have been there. Obviously, Kyle Busch. This time last year, we were hearing all the same things. To some extent, this is going way back. Part of the reason Michael Waltrip suffered so much was because they had reached an impasse on sharing information, and Kyle Busch was vocal about that way back in the day. Look, Coach Gibbs has got what he wanted, right? He's got Ty in the Cup car at his organization. So I'm going to start off by saying this. I don't think there's a massive incentive, honestly, for Coach to try to make something work. I think that, obviously he keeps high praise from Toyota if they put a deal together. But if not, it's like, well, look, I've got Martin for another year. I've got Donnie Morris and Bass Pro Shops. I've got, I've heard Brandon Jones is going back over there on the Xfinity side of things. They can put together something and be okay. So, but anyway, as far as the charter deal goes, I wouldn't be surprised. And there is some wording to it that Ford cannot directly help Michael and Denny purchase these charters, but I would be amazed if there weren't any business-to-business dealings in the back end that incentivized a $100 million investment from 2311 into 2 charters and making it a 4-car team. You talk about longevity. These charters are money, and we're right in the middle of a new TV deal and all this kind of stuff. And I think that, if I'm Denny Hamlin and I'm looking at, look, I want to make money as an owner when I retire from racing. Well, I can make more with 4 charters than I can with 2. So, we talked about this some weeks ago. Is the 2311 brand big enough to house Denny Hamlin? And we all agreed, yeah. Even now, it's August. The season ends in November. It'll be September next week. If they, in October, announce they're going to Ford, they're going to show up at Daytona with 4 sponsored Fords with Zane Smith and Denny Hamlin. So, I really think this really is the make or break moment for Gibbs, honestly, because there is a much more lucrative offer on the other side, and I'm placating you and saying, look, I want to be loyal to you because I'm not entertaining this much better offer, but you need to hurry up and give me exactly what I want. So, I don't know, man. It's a very interesting process, and to speak to the SHR thing, I think it's been obvious for a little while that there is certainly other interest from both owners, right? I think Gene is trying his hardest to cover up the fact that he's making money off the Russians fighting Ukraine with his CNC machines. And I think that Tony is much more interested in his fiance in drag racing and SRX. And you've got 4 poor performing Cup teams, 3, I guess, because Kevin made the playoffs. I could personally see the end of this year, or even in a month or two, where they agree to sell the Chargers for the 10 and the 41, because one car is self-sponsored, the other car, Smithfield, the sponsor, is leaving, and they divvy up the money from the sale. Gene gets part of his investment back, and he goes off to fight the war in Ukraine, I guess, and uh, and um, and Tony gets money to sponsor Josh Berry, because from my understanding, Josh Berry does not have a lot of sponsorship right now. So, a lot of moving pieces to it, and definitely something that I didn't see coming a week ago. But man, I'm excited to see where it heads, because I don't know, man. Change energizes us. This could be a really big change.
Yeah, it's well, first of all, an amendment to your statement. No, Gene will just shuffle that money into his perpetually underperforming F1 team.
Oh, right. Yeah, because oh man. Anyway, yeah.
But yeah, no, certainly downsizing what Stuart Haas would make sense, because it's it's a horse that's been beaten to death. Kevin is the only one who seems to be able to extract anything of note out of SHR at the moment. Everybody else just seems to just kind of trip over themselves for 30th every week. It's absolutely appalling, if I'm being honest. So, yeah, certainly if they sell those, and Joe, frankly, Joe blows it again, and 2311 goes packing. Yeah, expanding, taking those charters and expanding, to a 4-car op would be super duper duper cool. Yeah, I didn't know you guys had a conversation about that already, but yeah, that would be. I think the team can absolutely sustain that, a 4-car op. The idea of having, the 23 or the 11, sorry, in 2311 would be super cool. And frankly, it's a shame that it would have potentially, because of course none of this is absolutely set in stone, but we saw how Joe Gibbs' silly season went with Kyle Busch, and how monumentally that was squandered. So I'm not inclined to believe a word coming out of anybody who's connected to Joe Gibbs or Toyota right now.
That is, at 2311, if 2311 goes to 4, I am genuinely not surprised by the decision, because the way how Joe Gibbs and David Wilson be, that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering what that conversation is going to be like. If you're Toyota, you go to Joe Gibbs and say, in what, 18 months, maybe even less, we've lost Kyle Busch, still a champion contender, Denny Hamlin, still a champion contender, Tyler Reddick, champion contender, Bubba Wallace, playoff bubble driver right now, potentially another driver, maybe a Zane Smith as a future piece. Like, these are not small names. These are not field fillers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, y'all, like, the biggest name biggest name on the list was Kyle Busch, the guy that gave y'all the most win in the Cup Series, and y'all let him go like it's nothing. And that's sad.
I'll say this though. I was talking to a friend of mine that, and we were talking about this very thing a couple days ago, and I'll put this out there. I think that I'm sure Zane Smith has some offers right now that he's working through, and Harrison Burton has said he doesn't know what he's doing next year, and so there's a lot of different moving pieces right now to that. I would not be surprised at all if Joe gets an inkling that the Ford deal is going to happen, that he doesn't snatch Zane Smith first. I would almost bet on that happening more than both 2311 switching to Ford, then he going to 2311, and them getting Zane Smith. Unless, Ford tells him, like, stay put, don't do anything right now. That is a really interesting piece, because my question is this. if they don't get Zane, who apparently is being sought after by different people, who do they get for the fourth car? That's right, nobody.
I'm sure there's someone.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple names. I mean, there's, Cole Custer. There's Ryan
Gross.
Preece, I guess.
Ew.
We're all right.
What?
Yeah,
I'm good,
I mean,
bro.
I mean, as far as all that goes, but I mean, I don't know. Think that anybody else is a free agent this year. I mean, which in reality, I guess at the end of the day, owning 4 charters and having 3 cars is better than owning 3 cars and having 3 charters. So, I mean, if they got both of them, they had to hold on to one for a year and lease it out. Hey, that's more money for them, I guess.
Yeah, I think they have to just look at it as like a long-term investment, right? Like you said, like it's worth sitting on it or leasing it for a year, knowing you're going to have it back. It's only going to appreciate in value. Like these are not going to ever get any cheaper. That's a pretty safe bet at this point.
It's just interesting how, with Kyle Busch and the Denny situation, they chalked it up last year that Kyle didn't have the sponsorship money. Well, Cal's team just netted a brand new to NASCAR sponsorship, so that's not the case. And with Denny, as we know, FedEx is going through FedEx things. They're pulling out. What does Denny do? Lands a brand new sponsor that's never sponsored the sport. Sounds like Joe just has an ego that he wants stroking. He wants to be the sole and only #1 Toyota team for the rest of his natural born days on this planet. And he's willing to sabotage really great relationships and really great money making deals for himself just so he could be the prima donna and said he's the premier Toyota team. Well, good luck, buddy, because I hope they steamroll you in Daytona with the brand new Mustang. Because selfishness doesn't get you anywhere in this sport unless you're Rick Hendrick. I didn't say that. Let's see. Going back, I flipped the topics. Bubble watch. Oh, wait, hold up. Before we switch gears. GMS closing, y'all. As of the end of the season, GMS is out here in these streets.
I mean, the writing was kind of on the wall for that.
Yeah. Anybody want to elaborate? Thoughts, feelings?
Yeah. I mean, I'll talk about it for a second. So, I mean, when Legacy made the switch to Toyota, they announced that. Yeah, that was it. That was the end of it right there. Because, I mean, you look at, okay, Toyota lost KBM. How do they fix that? Okay, we got Tricon. What a corny name, but we have Tricon, and this is our development team, which consists of who I don't even know, but I mean I do know, but so I mean obviously it was like, is there really room for another like flagship Toyota truck team? Probably not. And Maurice Gallagher's got bigger fish to fry. They've got a Cup program that switching manufacturers is getting a new level of support. They have to find the ways to build the infrastructure to make sure that that's not going to waste and harbor that, land new sponsor deals. I mean, it's just, it's just not worth it to them. I mean, it's kind of like, you get a new job and you kind of stop playing a game with your friends that you kind of pick up. It's like, look, this is great and all, but I got bigger fish to fry. So I hate it, for only one of the drivers. Effinger's got money. He'll go somewhere. Who cares? He'll still be the 1 or 2 win a year guy. Daniel Dye made it very clear today that we're all poor. He isn't. Whatever. Go hug Michael Waltrip, dude. And then, Raj, with the unfortunate year he's had, it gets even worse. All I can say is, I hope that they put together something. Maybe he goes to Nice next year. Maybe he goes over to, Rev with Sanchez. Maybe he puts together a full year over at APR. I don't know. Raj is insanely talented and has shown flashes of brilliance that he probably could have been in the playoffs. and just didn't pan out. And I really hate it for him because I don't want him to be lost to time due to somebody else's, lack of foresight, I guess. So that's really the biggest thing. But I think he'll land on his feet. He's personable. They know his name. They told his story. I think he's got some nice brands attached to him. I think he'll be okay.
Anyone? Bueller. Well,
Yeah, I would say my biggest thing is just wondering about where Rajah goes. I mean, I think Carl really laid out pretty well, like the landscape of what there is for him, and it doesn't seem like there's a ton of options. And I just keep thinking back to that run he had. I want to say it was Kansas. It was just some mile and a half earlier this year, and was running well. I think it was in P2, and then the engine just blew up. And
WWT.
Yeah, okay, there it was. And just like, if that doesn't happen, I'm sure he feels a lot better today knowing he's got that tape out there of a complete race. So I just hope that he lands somewhere soon. He seems like a great guy, and I think he has a bright future ahead of him. And hopefully he doesn't have to step away from the sport just because of this situation. We've seen it time and time again, right? Where if you don't have the right window open at the right time, you never get another shot. And so hopefully that isn't the case with him.
Yeah, it's crazy. But like we said, we all knew it. We all expected it. And that's 3 more people needing a job. So moving on to the bubble watch before we jump into Daytona. On the Xfinity side, I had no idea that Riley Herbst and Parker Kligerman, of all people, are in a points battle. Parker Kligerman is 3 behind to the cut line. And then on the Cup side, of course, Bubba's plus 32 going into this weekend's shenanigans at the World of Speed. Daytona predictions, Xfinity side. Who wins? Is it Austin Hill? Does he get rewarded for re-signing?
Austin Hill, I give him the win. That's it.
Well, if he doesn't win, he's definitely going to complain about it in the post-race show. So that's one safe bet.
He'll be all right. He in the playoffs.
I've never seen a driver pout about not getting help from drivers that aren't teammates or manufacturers as much as he has this year. Like, that just rubs me the wrong way. But I feel like Parker ran well at Daytona in the past. I know Riley had a really tough going at Watkins Glen this week. I think he finished like 34th or 35th, and like that really shrunk that bubble. And Parker's been around for a while. I mean, he's definitely got experience over Riley. So outside of a new winner of like a Brandon Jones or someone like that, I'd say Parker makes it in. It's only 3 points. So with stages, they could easily make that up.
You just Art, you gave Brandon Jones a really good nickname. If I was Brandon Jones, I would call myself brand new. And then if I won a race, I'd be like, take me at the plastic because I'm acting brand new. But anyway, no, I mean, I think Austin Hill will probably do it again. It'll be Xfinity shenanigans as always. Those guys can't not tear up stuff. So there's that. I laughed. I don't know if it was Art that said it over the weekend, but when Austin Hill was like, I lost respect for Sam Meyer over that, and somebody was like, not the Austin Hill respect loss, anything but
that. Like, sir, who are you? You acting like you're Dale Earnhardt out here.
Hey, look, Austin Hill's a good kid and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just like, bro, dude, what? Yeah, I think Kligerman makes it in. I feel like Hurt's probably gonna put himself in a bad position trying to get away from Kligerman and solidify his gap in the bubble, and probably gonna end up getting caught up in a wreck or being in a wreck, knowing how he is, and I think Kligerman makes it.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why Kligerman doesn't. Now, granted, he'll win, and I'll have to listen to, some new crypto thing that he's interested in, which will make me very upset. But truth be told, like I said, he'll probably do it. Riley does have a bit of a habit of just strange, unforced errors. And that will, especially given that they are separated only by 3 points, and as was rather astutely pointed out, one decent stage finish will evaporate that. So pressure is on. Suffice it to say, and this is where I think Parker's experience is going to win out.
It's definitely going to be interested to see him. I'm actually excited to watch the Xfinity Daytona race for once. I just hate how, I know this is off topic, but I just hate how the summer races are shorter than the spring ones. Like it being a 400-mile race Saturday's kind of annoying. Like I want more. It's Daytona. It's at night. I want more.
Look, I've always loved that. I think that's tradition. That's a short Saturday night race on the 4th of July. Unfortunately,
Damn tradition.
But well, I think that's one tradition that should have stayed. We'll get into this in a minute, but I cannot tell you how much I loathe a plate race being the final race of the regular season. But I guess we can. I don't know anybody else got anything to say. We can shift over to Cup Watch for the weekend.
They did it for the ratings. And NBC
Yeah,
knows exactly
obviously.
what they're doing.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
So
Take a shot every time Saturday where Steve Letart's like, anybody can win here. Every position is 1 point on the racetrack. So keep, just whatever.
Don't you tempt me with a good time. It sounds like fun.
Dude, I hate it so much.
Yeah, but it's funny that you say that, much like I think probably everybody here, my productivity has fallen off a cliff with NASCAR Classics. So I've been having, races on in the background during the day. And it's funny when when plate racing effectively became a thing, so I mean, they've been talking about, this is wide open and, pack racing and anything can happen. I mean, we've been doing this dance for, 30 plus, 35 years now at this point. So it was just, it's kind of, one of those kind of the more things change, I don't bit of a double negative there, think that that discussion, is any less valid now than it was then. I understand why they did it. Mostly because speeds were getting high, crashes were getting spooky on super speedways prior to. But, I do think it's, at least now somewhat compounded by the fact that basically, as we talked about earlier, basically everywhere but intermediates, the on-track product is suboptimal in regards, in the eyes of most fans. Doesn't bother me too much, but I like watching the procession that is F1, so I don't really think I count there.
Then we're doing something Saturday. We're trying to see what 16 drivers going to end up going to the playoffs. Who do you have winning the race? I'll go last.
For me, for Saturday, obviously I want my boy to make it, but for me, as long as there's no new winners, for those existing winners, I don't care who wins. As long as there's no new winner, unless it's Bubba. But existing drivers, all of them, I don't care who wins. As long as there's no new winner, that we good. Then for me, I'll be straight.
Yeah, I don't remember who said it in our group chat, but someone said Brad Keselowski wins and Bubba points his way in. And that's kind of in line with like what I'm feeling. I feel like RFK's had a lot of momentum the last 5 weeks or so. And Brad's been in the hunt in a lot of these cup races. These restrictor plate super speedway races. And he's always been great at Talladega, and he's been there late at Daytona several times. So I could see him breaking through with a win, maybe his final career win if he's able to get it at this point. And I'll say Bubba gets in on points. I'm sure they'll be playing the stage points game early on, especially in stage one. If they could win stage one, I think that would really be a backbreaker to a lot of these teams. But with this race, like, it's a big deal. But I just think the fact that like Chase isn't in it, Bowman was a playoff guy last year. He wasn't in it. Like those names being on the outside, Bubba being right on the bubble. It just makes it, for me at least, feel like a bigger race than it was last year. Like it's hugely important, but like it just feels even higher stakes knowing the competition that's out there. And to Carl's point about it being this type of race as the cutoff, there's going to be a lot of drama, a lot of wrecking. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of sheet metal online for sale Monday morning, just based off of cars that have been smashed to pieces. So hopefully our boy can get it done. But, all you can do is try and put yourself in the best position at these tracks.
Yeah, it's always so tough. These races are always so wide open. That trying to, predict who's, especially on, the plate, the super speedways. Yeah, it's difficult. Because so much, it seems like, we've seen it time and time again at Daytona. It doesn't seem to really matter where you are. Somebody's going to inevitably do something stupid. And then, that wads up half the field. And we see it a lot late in the race at the front. Somebody tries to slot in to try and either make up a spot or tries to block a run. They do it too late and it collects everybody. Or, we have them, scrapping over, 20th and somebody goofs it. And there's, carnage everywhere. So that's tough. I could see, if you forced me to pick, I could actually see one of potentially, honestly, Kyle or William winning this. They've both been quick. William, Byron particularly, has been very, very quick at the ovals this year. So I could actually see him winning this potentially. I think our boy will get it done. We'll definitely need to play the stage point game, early. Gather up as much as you can to try and put some of the other bubble drive, basically put them on the caboose, put them out of contention for the playoff berth. But I'm anticipating lots of drama, lots of shenanigans. After the fact that by and large folks haven't enjoyed the couple of road courses. Car owners and drivers will be walking away from Daytona going, are you not entertained?
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, the fan entertainment is what matters, right? So I get why we're there. I'm just, I'm just not a fan of gimmicks, and that's what this is. And, it is what it is. But I'll tell you what, man, as far as who I think is going to win, God, I'd love to say Bubba all day long. It's I talk all the time about numbers don't tell the whole story, and you look at how he performs at plate races, and that's certainly the case there. Was half a lap away from winning the 500 this year, half a lap away from winning Talladega this year. That was his own fault of his own admission. In position on the 500 last year, in position on Talladega last year, and the list goes on and on. And so I think that he certainly has the mentality. He's matured. He understands how to do things enough that he can go out there and win Saturday, so long as he doesn't get caught up in somebody else's mess. But to err on the side of caution, I just want them to qualify well, finish well in the first stage, and then just kind of hang out. So long as somebody isn't leading, that's going to be a new winner. As far if I had to pick anybody else to win, I'm going to go with Kyle, but I'm going to go with a different Kyle. Kyle Busch is one of those guys that's really good at plate races, just doesn't have the finishes to show for it. Was really solid all the speed weeks at Daytona. I feel like RCR is really good at the plate tracks. Austin Dillon is a good pusher, substantially. So I think in a perfect world, I think Kyle Busch winning and Bubba Wallace pointing his way in is what I would hope for. But I'll tell you something else that just occurred to me. As far as I'm aware, there are only a couple of summer Daytona race winners in the playoffs right now. Kyle Busch is one of them. Can you guys think of any other one?
Your boy, Austin, no talent. Dillon.
Oh yeah, Austin's there. I'm thinking more along the lines of one Ricky Stenhouse Jr. from Olive Branch, Mississippi. It would truly not surprise me at all if he managed to go back to back at Daytona this year. It just feels like a Ricky Stenhouse thing to do. Yeah, it feels like a Ricky Stenhouse thing to do, to not be in the conversation pretty much the entire season, show up at Daytona, win, and refuse to comment. So, I don't know. I just kind of feel like I may slide a little money on the 47 this weekend. I don't know.
I don't know about that.
That's a dangerous game.
I know it. It's a very dangerous game. But,
yes, I'm looking forward to qualifying Friday. If we qualify, if we get a sniff of the front row, I want us in front the whole race. Now, like y'all said, you can be in front and get caught up in something. Chances are slimmer because they're not going to be doing anything stupid the first 3/4 of the race. If that can't happen, I need you to be 3 spots ahead of Ty at all times.
Yeah,
I have faith in Freddie and Bubba to make sure they'll keep a watch on one of the 3 Monster Energy cars that are running this weekend. That bag is deep, boy. I want Bubba to win. I want him to walk off. I want him to get this done. Personally, I kind of want him to win so he can also get in the Owners Championship. That just gives us more money to buy the SHR charters. So,
right.
We going forward, baby.
And something else I forgot to say, too, is I think we have to look out for more than wrecking is the power of the Hendrick Chevrolet, the HendrickCars.com money. Because there is no doubt in my mind that the 24, the 5, the 48, the 7, and the 77 are not going to be lined up behind the 9 all day long. I mean, there is a lot to play for when you're talking about playoff appearances as far as money goes. And I would be amazed if Rick didn't tell everybody that's involved with his organization, whether internally or externally, look, you push the 9, and I don't care about what else happens. I think that is what we really have to worry about. The Chevys are really good at plate racing. They have the numbers. They have the power. I think that is going to be the biggest hill that they have to climb. Now, I would love to see, quite frankly, Chase just continue his path of not being on form, but you just never know. So that's my biggest thing to look out for. I don't think a wreck is going to be as big of a threat. I think it's going to be, just the Hendrick plate track power that's going to be kind of the problem to look out for, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh, Ricky. Well, I kind of like our predictions. We're kind of all over the place. Ultimately, it doesn't effing matter. Bubba gets those 3 points over Ty Gibbs, and it's we hide in the back until it's 10 laps to go. And then bleep word there. I'll behave. I won't say it. Cool. Moving over, our new weekly section, Ask Bonte. Get your questions in. Hashtag Ask Bonte.
Hashtag Ask Bonte.
Bonte, this question comes from...
He's flipping off the camera right now. He's flipping off the camera right now. I'm going to tell you, folks, He loves the attention. All right.
He
The
does.
logistics of getting him here, you would have thought we were dealing with early 2000s era Britney Spears. He was being such a diva about the whole thing.
This man, like Barack Obama.
Don't let his persona online fool you of like thinking like, oh, I don't like the attention. Y'all got to stop ragging on me. He loves this.
Hey, I told you, he's a people's champ.
Absolutely.
He is
people's
the
champ.
I'm so glad I get to witness it. Yeah, absolutely.
Answer the damn questions. What we got?
Wow. Okay. So this first question, Trishawn Brown 4. Appreciate you submitting this. Do you think Bubba could win either of one of the last 2 races of the regular season, or point his way into the playoffs?
Let's worry about the win. Let's worry about the win during the playoffs. Focus on you getting to the. Focus on yourself getting into the playoffs. That's what I asked for. Let's win during the playoffs, but we want to do it. We want to be in the playoffs. So I'll say worry about the playoffs first. Then we want to start doing winning and stuff.
I mean, secretly, I kind of hope Bubba does make the playoffs, because you know where one of them races is. He got a trophy from.
Yeah, it got a bunch of good tracks. A bunch of good tracks during the playoffs. Like a lot of good tracks they really good at. So point his way to the playoffs, and then we get started on business.
Oh, he got into the. I wish y'all could see it. Bonte jumped in the camera. That was forceful. Ooh. This next question comes from Sam H8876. Appreciate you, Sam. Who's making the championship for?
If I'll be honest with you, Truex, Byron, Bell, Bubba. Yeah, I said it. Who's gonna say me now? I said it.
It's spicy.
That
was bold. Yeah.
It's a bold prediction, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
If I get that right, I would do a double shoey.
You're already doing a double shoey if Bubba wins.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. If Bubba wins Saturday, I'll do the damn shoey in his place. I ain't listening to that Luke Combs song all day today for nothing.
Doing it on camera too, Carl.
Look, I don't care. I'm not afraid of it, unlike you.
I'm afraid. Okay, bro.
I've gotten kicked out of worse places for doing better things, buddy.
Whatever you say, buddy. All right, that's all. What we got, Jarratt?
We get 2 questions a week. Again, friends, use your hashtag AskBonte on Twitter, and you may be selected next week.
Maybe. Get your questions down below.
With that, we're at open questions, topics, concerns.
Yeah, I got one thing to say before we wrap it up.
Anything to go off the rails about?
Yeah. Just one quick thing we didn't mention is that also this weekend the FIA Max Verstappen Series comes back. So be sure to wake up super early to hear the Dutch Grand Prix twice this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean the Dutch
Formula.
Woo, man, love it. I got reminded the other day about the antics of AlphaTauri sending Tsunoda back out when Lewis was lapping like half a second a lap faster and potential to win or whatever, like I said. So bitter about that. Don't really care. Not going to watch it. Whatever. Are we 1 week closer to him wrapping this title up, please? So that's all I got to say.
The parade of the Red Bulls, because Checo isn't built like that.
No, he's really not.
He's not, man. He really isn't.
Yep. So I will be, like I said, I called it a procession earlier, procession behind the Red Bull. I will be up at an ungodly hour all weekend watching, because I'm a masochist and I enjoy this. Part of me is kind of hoping that Max wins every race just so it can be so exceptionally damaging to the sport that they have no choice but to do something. But yeah, that's for that's it for our Formula One chatter.
I feel like I have to be right with you and just watch practice and qualifying. I can't let my F1 TV subscription go to waste just because the accounting department in F1 just wants to continue to write off all the catering that Christian Horner does. But whatever keeps him off the grill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What else? It was something else. Oh, I got a question. Why don't F1 like change their paint schemes? Like, why is it like the whole race? Why is it like special like propaganda that they have to apply to get a new livery? Like, what's the beef?
That's the question for another episode. No, I'm joking.
This man here.
It's open time. Why is it so hard to change colors?
Yeah, facts. I need to hear this.
So, I mean, and Danny can probably elaborate on this more, but basically it's just the marketing for those teams runs much deeper than what we see in NASCAR. Also, when they design the cars, a lot of the times they take into account the weight of the wraps and the paint colors. And so, that changes, that can be a problem. But from my understanding is that it's a marketing nightmare to do more than one scheme. And also it's just tradition for them to do the whole thing through the year. So that's why the one-offs we get now from like McLaren or Mercedes or Red Bull or Ferrari last year with the yellow cars is so special.
Yeah. And additionally, there actually are some provisions within the sporting regulations of the FIA rule book that actually do pertain to liveries. I'll take it for the 5 people who listen to this that care about Formula One. Gonna take a deep dive back. The year is 1998. And there's a team called British American Racing. So when they pulled the wraps off the car, and it was a warehouse somewhere just outside London, if I remember correctly. Yeah, just outside London. Because they had two. They had 2 tobacco sponsors. They had Lucky Strike, which was generally kind of gold, white, and red, and then they had 555, which you'll probably know from Subaru's exploits in the World Rally Championship. They wanted to actually run 2 different cars, or 2 different paint schemes, one per car. But the FIA said absolutely not. And funny enough, they actually attempted to take the FIA to court over it and lost miserably, and that's a whole other thing. So they wanted to do, it was the zipper scheme. And the FIA shot that down too. But truth be told, the FIA, because this was sort of towards, dare I say, the end of Max Mosley actually being useful as the president of the FIA. And we kind of get into his sort of vindictive era in the 2000s. So that's a different thing altogether. But, and since then, because you used to see one-off liveries a lot more prior to this. Benetton had run a number of one-off liveries for various races. McLaren has had a history of it for quite some time. Williams had as well. So it was not unprecedented prior to this. Like I said, if anything, it was a little bit more common. But the whole legal row between the FIA and BAR about it was such a mess that I do genuinely think it scared off teams from doing it more frequently.
It's trash. The chrome car this year was cool.
They were like, "Who do you think we are, Americans?"
Right. Change our livery. And the white Red Bull car was cool too. I forgot why they raced that, but that was kind of fire.
Yeah, it was just a testing livery. Red Bull does just testing liveries every year, and everybody goes, "Wow, this is great." And then we see the actual livery, and it's just a variation on what we've had for the last 20 years. Yeah, I know. I hate it. The classic Mercedes livery from the German Grand Prix in 2017. It was a gorgeous car. Of course, the race went absolutely to pot.
I don't think that was 17. I thought that was. thought that was well, no, I guess it was 17 or it was 18. It was one of the years he was fighting with Sebastian Vettel, because that was the same race that Vettel pretty much tossed his title hopes. But I feel like that was 18. But you're probably right; it probably was 17.
Yeah, it's in that vicinity. Admittedly, well, I mean, we all understand it. We watch so much of
Dude,
this stuff that it all blends
exactly.
together.
I'm telling you, except for Bonte, who somehow always knows everything.
Yeah,
But,
shut up.
I'm genuinely slightly jealous of that because I think I just watch too much stuff, honestly. Because, like I said, it
I'm
all
starting
runs.
to kind of lose grip on some of that stuff too. So
Yeah, but so that's fun. We're running towards the end of getting towards the end of the IndyCar season. We don't have too much left. Oh, and that's actually another thing. Oh my God, Alex Palou is so messy.
Oh God, let's talk about this.
I don't even follow the series, but I follow that from, and it's pretty hilarious.
It is so similar to last year with Chip
Yes,
and
it
Ashton.
is.
Yeah. Like, what the hell? Is it like a repeat of this thing going on now?
That's basically exactly what's happened, but the difference is that Zach Brown is very angry about this and is actually he served Alex Palou, definitely served Alex Palou papers. I don't know if Chip Ganassi himself has gotten swept into all of this, but
I'm sorry, but Zach Brown is literally a messy dude, and
he is too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is the big American cheeseburger eating messy guy on the grid. So it makes perfect sense, honestly.
But I mean, it's one thing I understand why he doesn't want to take this line down because Alex has done this before. But it's like just basically say that you got flim-flammed by Alex Palou and moved on. You are not the first person to get screwed, and you are probably not going to be the last. But that being said, the fact that this has happened, this is the second year in a row that we have had just a contract nightmare with Alex. At what point does this start to hurt his stock in the IndyCar driver market? And given that he was linked to a reserve driver role with the Formula One program at McLaren, not Aero McLaren in IndyCar, but there was some chatter that he could end up in a race seat at some point.
Yeah.
It's like like I said, at what point, I think he's burned that bridge with F1.
Yeah.
Clear.
Yeah. I don't know a tremendous amount about the series. I try to follow it as much as I can and read about it. But I mean, I would think just from a general standpoint, I mean, you back to back on this, I think it would hurt you tremendously moving forward because nobody wants to approach you because if Alex doesn't like the deal, oh, sorry, I didn't actually sign a contract. I'm sorry you put all your press stuff out there. So I don't know, but I was wondering that when I read it the other day about him and that McLaren deal. But I think it's affected him greatly, honestly, especially if depending upon how this legal battle goes. So.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. There's not certainly in IndyCar. There's not a whole lot of precedent for driver versus a team. This is actually where JT, it would be fantastic to have her here because goodness gracious, she is very good at following this stuff. But and truth be told, actually, I might DM her and ask after we finish recording because I'm curious.
We're in talks to get her as a regular right now to replace somebody else that's here. So
actively in contract negotiations.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I certainly can't think of a time when this has, happened. You've had periodic fights, funny enough, in F1 with the FIA and the Contract Recognition Board, and of course the teams, because usually two teams in question, Adrian Newey and Jaguar and McLaren in the early 2000s, like 2003 or something like that, 2003, 2004. And then Jenson Button, Williams, BAR actually, and that would have been like 2005 or so, 2006. It was early in his career. But does IndyCar have a version of the Contract Recognition Board? I don't know. I have no clue. So I am watching this very closely, if for no other reason than for the next twist and turn. This will all almost certainly end with Alex staying at Ganassi, but it's gonna be a mess.
And we're gonna have to dedicate some topic time next time in between the shots and high fives and cheers for the majority of the show next week. But yeah. Anyone else? Questions, comments, concerns? Any last minute interruptions, Bonte? You good?
End the damn show, bro. No.
Boy.
Let me end. No. Let me end it. One time.
You got to mention our 5-star
boy.
reviews.
Yeah, and the Twitter.
Exactly. Go for it. Close us off then.
All right, send us away.
All right. Thank y'all so much for watching. Make sure y'all like, subscribe. We on Apple, Spotify. Something else. Apple, Spotify, Google. Yes, Google. And yeah, we'll be back next week to talk about other playoffs. And yeah, we will talk to y'all guys next week and see y'all later.
We'll be back next week with 1, possibly 2 shoeies live on camera. It's going to be on the Twitter.
Yes, sir. Live on camera. Make
y'all
sure,
next week.
hopefully.
I'll do a Healy. I have a heel that I can use. But bye.
Night, y'all.